All right. And good Friday morning to all of our friends and PSWs across the province of Ontario and Canada. My name is Miranda Romanovic. I'm the CEO of the Ontario PSW Association and host of PSW Podcast, where we come to you guys live every single Friday at 11 a.m. on Facebook and streamed on TikTok. And again, today I'm joined by my co-host, Ian De Silva, who is the Chief Operating Officer of both the OPSWA and the CANSWA, like myself. And we're here today to talk about the power of we. The power of PSWs in the community, the power of PSWs in general. And it's an interesting topic. And I think we're going to kind of be all over the place with this one a little bit,
Oh yeah,
probably. But yeah, Ian, why don't you get us started?
yeah. It's kind of a topic of philosophy today. So the power of we and understanding that the PSW community, like Marina was saying, you have a lot more power simply because you're the ones providing the majority of the care. You're that interface between the patient and Ontario Health. So we want to. I think today we want to make sure we start trying to build a foundation of a more positive environment for PSWs, and starting with ideas of mentorship, addressing problems, addressing ideas of reconciling the incentives with some of the current theories of care. It's going to be a big one where we won't be long, but it will be complicated. So,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
but
And
where
as
do you want to
usual,
start?
feel free to ask questions here on Facebook or of course on our TikTok. I'll make sure to look over to our TikTok as much as I possibly can. So I don't even know where to start
Let
because
me. I got one. Let me ask you a
oh,
question. So, in the
sure.
last couple of weeks, where do you think the major issues are when it comes to dealing with this philosophy of we? I know it's a very strange philosophy, but
So
where do you?
very strange. So I think the issue lies between the veteran PSWs and the new PSWs.
Mhm.
This is what we're seeing. We're seeing a divide, a siloing, for a lack of better term. I mean, kind of a government of Ontario term, a siloing where you have the veteran PSWs that are not in it for the money. I like to say a lot of them make good enough where they make a good living, but they're in it because they want to be in it and they want to care. We're talking about, veterans. When I'm talking about veterans, I'm talking about PSWs that have been in it for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, where they have stuck it out. This has become their passion. This has become their career in life. And these are also our COVID warriors, and in some cases also our SARS warriors who went through SARS in the early 2000s. So and then you have the new students. Now I'm not saying all the students are like this. A lot of that we deal with. We just welcomed a new one to our PSW advisory committee last night. She's a mature student. She's doing PSW after years in the trucking industry. Fabulous, fabulous. And she's in it because she wants to make a difference. And then we have the PSW students that we're seeing a lot of, and we're hearing because they're coming to us, a lot of conversations surrounding this Ontario incentive for students. A lot of, I won't do my placement at this particular home because they are not offering the $5,400. I can understand that people need to make money. I can appreciate that. I understand that. But if you're in it, if you become a PSW because of the incentive and because of money, I prefer if you don't. And that's coming from myself as a PSW of 20 years. I became a PSW because I loved my elderly people and I chose to help the most vulnerable because that's something that I wanted to do. It wasn't about the money, it was about helping people. And if you're not in it for that reason, then I'm telling you right now, you need to leave because this is not going to be a career it's not going to be a career. This will be a fly by night for those individuals. But what I worry about, Ian, just to get kind of dark for a second, is how are they going to treat our patients? How are they going to treat our clients? And how are they going to treat our residents if money is top of mind?
An excellent point, because that's how it's being framed, right? Like, um, there's a dollar sign. This is what you'll get. Some people get it. Some people don't. Those who get it, what is the ethical foundation that surrounds that? Is there any sort of extra duty of care these individuals need to have? It doesn't seem to be the case. We had a term like, what are they doing essentially? Is they're monetizing personal care in some ways? Is that they're
In some ways, that's absolutely what they're doing. They're paying, they're dangling money in front of people to say, we need PSWs. Here's a ton of money for you to become a PSW. However, You may or may not get it, like you said, right? And and also like there's a lot of PSW students that are great that did do this incentive that are still waiting for this incentive. They're already in the field, they're already working, they're already full-fledged PSWs, and they still haven't gotten their
Yeah.
incentive from their clinical placement. So there's a lot of confusion surrounding this incentive, number one. Number two, there's a lot of divide amongst the veteran PSWs and the new PSWs because of this incentive. The veteran PSWs are not receiving anything.
Nothing.
They're not getting anything. The last thing we won for them, Ian, and we're taking credit for this again, was the $3 wage enhancement that was made permanent through the COVID. That was the only thing that they had received, and it was great at the time. However, when I did my PSW program at Mohawk College in 2006, I didn't receive money to do my clinical.
Well, let's take it back a minute. You want to call this an incentive. Why are you offering an incentive at the beginning to enter a field? Why not offer an incentive after 5 years of completion? Like, I don't get why they're doing it this way. Like, am I wrong to think that after 5 years you should get a bonus from the government to show that you've worked, especially if you're in a government facility? And I'm talking government facilities, everyone, not retirement,
Private. We're
private
not talking
care.
private. We're
Just
not
for the
talking
benefit,
private.
because I can see the chats. Not I can't, but I can feel them coming in saying retirement homes. No,
Yeah.
if you're in a government facility and you've committed 5, 10 years of your life, those are the individuals that should be getting this incentive. In my opinion, that should be the incentive for them. I don't know why that's not being reversed. I don't see why.
What about the PSWs that have 20 years in?
Exactly.
25 years in? Why?
No, and they're not getting
Yeah.
rewarded, but these new people are, and they're only being drawn in. And this is the other side of things that this is where the cruelty, in my opinion, comes in, is that putting like this huge amount of money, entangling it in front of people so that you can achieve a metric just to show that patients have someone beside their bed. Is this really what we're trying to build in healthcare? Like,
It's sad. It's sad. Like I remember when I went to school to become a PSW, and I'm speaking very fondly of all the girls. There was no guys in my class at the time, but all the girls I went through school with to become a PSW. And yeah, some of them had plans to become nurses after they did their PSW, but we were all in it because we cared about the people that we were caring for. And nowadays in a lot of the conversations that the association's having, when I do TikTok live, a lot of the questions that are being asked of me are very much concerning, because I'm like, well, so like I had one PSW the other day who was totally mad because I'm not going to say he or she, but they were only making $27 an hour. Pardon? Like you do realize you only go to school for 6 to 8 months.
yeah, I get it. You and me have had different positions on this.
Oh, I know,
A
I
little
know,
bit,
I
a
know.
little bit,
A
a
little
little
bit,
bit.
a little bit. And that's okay. That's what we're here for. But you only go to school for 6 to 8 months. And yes, it's a very important role. And yes, you should be paid a living wage in order to, care for the most vulnerable. That I do absolutely agree with. But what I don't agree with is when we have PSWs coming saying, I need to make $35, $40 an hour, which is higher than an RPN in a lot of cases, or, short or right up next to an RPN in a lot of cases. And for doing what? For doing bedside care, I understand that. I get that. But, from someone who has been a PSW for 20 years, I started at 1870 or 875 an hour, and I made as much as $21 an hour as a PSW. And that was extremely good wages back then. And now we're seeing PSWs, some starting at 1785, which I don't agree with. Minimum wage should not be the cost of PSW. That's the private sector primarily. However, they're starting at 21, 24, 28, $30 an hour. That's really good wages.
And if you're not paying for your college, and some are, but I mean and that's the other side of it. It's that is a living wage in most of Ontario. So there is that element of you don't want to say agree, but there is that. Now, the reason I think that, excuse me, the reason this is also important is because if we continue to incentivize to lure people into the profession simply with a cash payment, then those people are going to look at nursing the same way when they move up and they decide to go into nursing. They're going to see this is just about money. And I'm worried that we're seeing a lot more of that in healthcare, where it's more about how much I make versus what my role is.
The
And
15 years I've been doing this, and even Ian, in the 8 years that we've been doing this together, I've never seen it so much.
well,
It's
last
always
night
been a topic of conversation.
last night was a real eye opener because we did our PSWAC meeting last night, and we really need to look more at the difference between the cultures that establish that, for example, long-term care homes that differ. And we see a lot about bullying in long-term care homes, negative things in long-term care homes. And I'm wondering if there's a stronger correlation between long-term care homes that use a person-centered care philosophy versus those that use a task-centered care philosophy. So
That was a very interesting
it
conversation
was a
last
very
night.
interesting conversation. I think it's something that we need to look more closely at because I think we've been sliding very quickly into a task-centered approach, which is more like an assembly line, where yeah, then you can incentivize people to come and do assembly line work. I get it, but why are we doing that? Like
Well, and
this,
that was the interesting point too, is right, is in speaking with one of our PSWC members, she is a newer graduate, I believe in 2016, and she said that person-centered care was a very big aspect of her curriculum, whereas apparently it was not a big aspect of the curriculum prior to 2014. In the community colleges it was, but apparently in every other curriculum it was not, which is something that we've seen and we can relate. And when you're looking at task-centered versus person-centered, I mean, she was bang on when she said, some of the PSWs, we just need to get it done. Whereas, she would say, no, we need to give this individual 5 more minutes for them to get this something done so that we don't deal with 30 minutes of behaviors, 5 hours later kind of thing.
a
And
change of thinking. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. And I don't think I ever looked at it from that standpoint because I was always person centered. Like I would always spend that extra time with my residents. I got in so much crap from a lot of the HCAs that worked around me. So I can understand what she's saying because you do, if you sometimes if you give that extra 5 minutes, that extra 10 minutes for them to finish eating or dressing or toileting or whatever it is, then you're not dealing with the behaviors 5 hours later, that 30 minutes of behaviors.
And then they don't have to get antipsychotic drugs administered to adapt to those behaviors because there's not enough staff on the floor.
Exactly. So that's why, like at the association, and I'm talking to everyone that's watching us right now, we do a lot of things from a patient-centered approach. We always believe that that healthcare should be from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. And so when we're looking from the bottom up, we're looking at the patient, the client, the resident. They come first. A lot of times in conversations with government, or you see a lot of campaigns that go out there, and even ours, where we're very much focused on the core healthcare team. So we're saying, like, what about the nurses? What about the doctors? What about the PSWs? Well, when does someone say, what about the patients? What about the residents? What about the clients? Because at the end of the day, every decision, even we make as the professional association of PSWs, it reflects directly on the residents, clients, and patients that our PSWs care for daily. And so, that's where we come from, is our philosophy is to look from the patient centered first up. And some other associations do that as well, but we don't see it as often as we should.
Exactly. No, I think that's an excellent point. We don't see it. And I don't even know if there's any method to determine it, where this is employed and where it's not. But we've been seeing it with our members, we've been seeing with people on TikTok, on our channel saying, my job is like a factory.
Yeah.
My job is like a factory. I don't have any time to be the person. I can't fulfill my role as a PSW because I'm focused on task over care. So I'm very curious. Is this a long-term care issue? Is this something this is not for today, just to discuss. It's worth looking into though, for sure.
Yeah, flipping on our PSW's heads. It'd be interesting though, because like, yeah, like I did have, that was how I was driven to be in almost 10 years in long-term care. And that's why I got in trouble so much with a lot of my colleagues, not my girls on my shift. I found we were all very person-centered care or patient-centered care, but I found it was, very much like, well, you have to stack the cart. You have to get them to the dining room at this time. You have to feed them by this time and get them out of the dining room. You have to get them to bed at this time. You have to, have them bathed by this time. You have to do your books by this time. And in the books, and this is aging me because we did everything on paper and not by digital, and thank God for that, because I would just be so confused right now. But I mean, it was very much that stress of you got to get it done, 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 and it wasn't about the people. I mean, I can remember wondering to myself when I worked in long-term care, like we would finish dinner at about 6 o'clock, and the PSWs immediately started putting people to bed. at
Wow.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, that's a bit
Like,
much. That's almost a punishment. Like what
well,
do you mean?
they put them, and I remember I had this one lady. God, I loved her. She's passed. I can say her name. Her name was June, and and whenever there was tub, because I was the bath nurse. That was the title at the time. I was the tub girl. Every time she had her tub, her bath with me, she was so happy because she got to stay up later.
See, what does that tell you about the factory? So like it becomes a factory.
Yeah.
So look at that from a patient care model. Here's this person being treated like a product being moved from one place to another. And at the end of the day, it goes back to the same cycle, which is now we've identified as a complete fallacy. Because now we have the 4 hours of care and on the long-term care crisis is solved. So these stories should be ending. We should not be hearing about factory level care, should we? I mean, at this point where we should be looking at person-centered care should be the priority. So when we're hearing PSW say, well, we're so short-staffed, and yet we have a population of PSWs that can't get a job, and at the same point in time, we have that same long-term care population being medicated and sedated using antipsychotics
Yeah.
to prevent behaviors because they have to use, because of the low staffing, which is now we're identified as a choice, not an effect. So
Yeah.
those that have chosen to reduce their staffing are forcing the factory setting on here. And I challenge anyone to argue that, which is why we've always advocated that when you have how, if I can continue one more second, when you
Keep
have
going.
facilities that have those situations where, like you just said, Miranda, we have to have them in bed by 6 because there's not enough people here to do the job. This is why you need to have the management administrators trained in personal care so that they can to help during those crimes of crisis.
Bango, bango.
I'm done. I've
They
been
don't, they don't, hey, I agree with you full heartedly, Ian. I mean, you don't want to fully staff the long-term care homes. You don't want to fully staff your retirement homes. Then you know
fine.
what? The management and administration need to be trained in personal support so
Absolutely.
that they can assist on the floor when needed. Because
Completely
again,
agree.
it goes to the end of the day, it is about patient-centered care. It is not about the manager not wanting to do this work. I could give two hoodle doodles.
No, like, we're not talking about whether or not the management team wants to work or not. We're talking about they should be actively
That's my
involved.
point.
I agree
That's my
completely.
point. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if they have that training, they have no choice.
Exactly. And I think that would be a really useful tool. And these are not there would be navigating around collective bargaining agreements, but I think using them as emergency if they just said there would be no problem.
That would have been great through COVID.
We found that to be the opposite in COVID. We had a lot of there were some amazing leaders out there during COVID that we found were like some leaders that were just amazing and others that were the opposite of that.
I'll never forget that phone call that we got that PSWs told us that we were being barricaded, that the management have barricaded themselves in the office because they didn't want to come out and help on the floor.
Yeah, they pushed their desks up against the doors so that the staff couldn't get into the administrative wing because they didn't want to deal with it. It's like that's not leadership in a health crisis.
We
Anyway,
have a question. We have the question. Dawn, thank you for your question. Yes, agreed. How are you going to change this? Is it through the government and you advocating hard? Yes.
yes,
Yes, and we've just got love because she loves that we're letting this all out. Yeah, absolutely, Dawn. I mean, this is what we have a bunch of ideas on how to address this. Number one, we are looking at further extending training for PSWs into administration so that PSWs, once you guys retire because your bodies are dead, you can
can't
actually
talk
move
about it.
up. But we can't really talk about it, not with who. I'm not going to say when, how, what, but our plan is to have something like that happen. Hopefully, fingers, toes, and eyes crossed. But also as well is we do have a campaign currently out over Instagram, Facebook, where we're really pushing for a 1 PSW to 6 resident ratio in long-term care homes. We truly do not believe that you can hit the 4 hours of care per resident in per day in long-term care without having a set ratio that is a ministry standard that the employers have to hit, because it is up to the employers as to how many residents 1 PSW can handle, which is ludicrous, ludicrous.
Exactly. And then because we're using a 4 hours of care metric, which is almost impossible to measure, employers can constantly say, we need more staff, therefore we need more money, and that money ends up going to the administration rather than to the personal care element. We've seen it, we've heard it from past ministers. So
That's ministers.
anyone who argues with that is you're kidding yourselves.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Kidding
exactly. You're
yourselves.
kidding yourself. And you know what? And the thing is too, Dawn, yes, no one's just gonna listen to 1 PSW or any of us. We do listen. We are your professional association. This is our job. You know, and we do push these things at government, and we will continue to do so. And we're known for talking about the things that nobody wants to talk about. I mean, we talk about bullying, we talk about, you know, the ratio issues, we talk about the reality, because that's what it is. It's reality. You can't get more reality based and in your face than a personal support worker.
No, you can't.
You can't. And there's no way to fudge that and say that, you know what I mean? Oh, it's so easy, you know, everything's so, it's sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. That's not, definitely not the way that it works uh for
So,
PSWs.
so tying this back to the conversation of the PSW we philosophy.
Yes, the we.
Sorry. Yeah, I think we all understand that you guys, the PSW is so important, and then some of these things are being overlooked, and the government's constantly framing it as, this is a situation in crisis. There's so much mixed messaging. It's like, enough now.
Well, and also too, can I just point out, and bringing it back to that whole, like, you know, we as the PSWs. And I really want to speak to the veteran PSWs. I'm going to talk to them first, and I'm going to go over to the new PSWs. But veteran PSWs, being one of you, myself, we have the ability as veteran PSWs to welcome these new PSWs in and actually show them how it's done. And the more that we mentor, the more that we envelop, the more that we have that compassion in order to help these new PSWs, the better care they're going to be able to provide to those residents and those clients and those patients that we care about in the homes that we work in. And so, you know, yes, is their training as robust as it was for us back in the day? No, it is not. But it is our job to teach them. So bringing them into the fold, at the end of the day, guys, no one understands a PSW better than a PSW. And instead of fighting against each other, we should be welcoming each other and working together, because we have a lot of outside, I don't want to say enemies, but forces that are trying to divide the personal support worker. And we need to come together so that we are not divided. Together, we are an extremely strong force to be reckoned with. And you have to keep that top of mind, because at the end of the day, there's the PSW and then there's the patient. We are their voice. We are their eyes, their ears, their arms, and their legs. We need to continue to be that so that we protect the most vulnerable. That is our biggest job. And to the new PSWs that are coming out into the field, we appreciate you. Thank you for coming into the field. But know that you're coming out, and yes, you have great training, I'm sure, but the real nitty gritty stuff that you're going to learn is right from the veteran PSWs. So envelop the veteran PSWs, listen to what they have to say. And remember that if you're in this for the money, I'll say we don't want you. So, and I said it, if you're in it for the money, I don't
Well,
want you.
because this is not a position that you're in it for the wrong reasons, because
Yes.
you're going to be focused too much on your revenue and not on the patient that really is there and desperate for your attention. So that's really where we're coming from in that thing.
Yeah.
Well said.
I mean, I don't mean to be rude, and I know that people need money, and I understand that people need to make a living. But when you're dealing with bedside nursing and you're dealing with literally the most vulnerable individuals in our society, you cannot be there just for a paycheck. You have to legitimately care about the people that you're caring for. And if people get mad at me for saying that, then you're the problem, because you got to have compassion, you got to have empathy, you got to be loyal, you got to be willing to want to help these people. You can't just come in and treat them like they are a thing. That's a human being that we're caring for,
But
and you
Miranda,
need to have that.
that's how a lot of PSWs are treated by the system, aren't they?
Oh, they are treated
Problem.
like
It's like,
they're a thing as well.
you
Yeah.
set an example, I guess, is really is
Yeah.
what we're asking, because
It-
they were the largest workforce in all the sectors, pretty much in healthcare. So it's really up to the PSW to start, in many ways, start setting the examples, calling out bullying, calling out negative behavior, fighting against task management approaches. If you're in a facility that is purposely low staffing in order to justify a greater budget increase, that's stuff we need, like, you need to make sure people know about, and that's where this advocacy is, because that is the patient care at the front lines.
yeah, bingo bango, Ian, you nailed it. And just to answer Dawn, you can call OPSWA. Especially if you're a member. If you're a member, we can advocate for you. If you're a member, we can help you. We
Oh,
can guide you.
absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things that we do as an association for our members.
But
So this
join
has
our
been
PSWAC. Please consider joining that too,
the
because
advisory committee. Yeah.
we get people that want to involve, but it's usually just they have a moment of anger and they want to vent it, and that's cool. But for those who are interested in joining, please consider it.
Yeah, if you're a member of the association and you want to have your say and you want to be a part of the change, then you need to join our PSW advisory committee. We're always welcoming new committee members. We only meet once a month for like an hour and a half, unless there's some crisis, and then all of a sudden you're involved in everything. But for the most part, it's just once a month in the evening for about an hour, hour and a half, and you guys got be brought up to speed on what's going on in the association, what's happening with PSWs, and then we get your feedback. So yeah, Ian, great point. Thank you for that. Because that's needed. We need these people. Ian and I are not, Ian is not a PSW, he's an honorary PSW. I am a PSW, but we need your voice. We need you to tell us what you need as PSWs, because
No,
we take that to government.
no, I'm not. But I've been working in this field enough, and I've seen the changes going from when we had an active community filled with PSWs wanting to work to what we see now, which is a very different world, and it's not good.
It's so different.
It's,
And maybe we'll talk about that on a future PSW podcast.
we will.
Because you and I could go off for hours talking about PSWs. But you know what, a really lively conversation today, Ian. Like really passionate and lively conversation, which I love. And I'm just gonna see if there's any more questions. Nope. Okay, we're good.
Okay, we're good.
So I'm gonna head over to TikTok for Q&A for a little bit here. And next week at 11 a.m. is our spooky PSW podcast, where we're going to be sharing stories right from the front line, true ghost stories from our
It
PSWs.
will be a little longer than our normal podcast because there's going to be a few stories, but
There's a lot of stories and they're
yeah,
scary. They're
yeah,
scary. All I'm going to say is Walker.
yeah. No, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
good. But well, I need to get some sleep tonight.
It's
So
going to be a good
please
one.
tune in next week. It's going to be it'll be good.
It's going to be a good one. But for all those of you that are not members of the association yet, remember that if you're not a member of the association, you are not protected. So make sure to become a member. You can go to our website at www.opswa.ca, click on memberships. It's all self-explanatory there. And as well as it's all tax deductible. So you spend the money, but you get your money back and you are protected as a PSW. So thanks everyone for joining us again on another episode of PSW Podcast. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Thank you, Ian, again for joining me. And with that, I'm going to head over to TikTok and we're going to say, OPSWA out.
Bye.